Before starting to build our Insights webpage, I think it's important to see some of the things that we can do with Insights. So as you're seeing my screen right now, I have actually constructed 4 maps, several charts, and a couple tables. So let's just see what we have here. This is a chart of wineries that have been visited. These are historical markers that have been visited and recorded. These are Civil War battlefields that have been visited and collected. If I scroll down, these are covered bridges and water-powered mills that have been collected. Along with this, you can see there's several charts, and we'll talk about those charts in just a moment. Notice this upper left-hand corner map has a bar around it, some handles, and this little action icon over here on the right-hand side. And so this is the primary map that we're using right now, and we have set these maps to be synchronized together. So when I zoom in, you can see all the maps zoom. When I pan, all the maps pan. And if I make this the active map by just clicking on it, notice the action icon down here, and I can zoom around. And if I click on one of the elements and go up here, I can get a pullout that'll show me some things about this. So this is about how the county got its name, this particular one. So we'll just close that. And that's true with any of these. If we want to know what winery that is, we click on it and we'll see the same type of a pulled out here, and you can learn information about that particular item. So if I click on that item again, all the other items appear. So let's scroll up a little bit. Let me click on the New York State wineries on the bar chart. So this chart showed where the different wineries were that have been visited. And we need to pan a little bit. So notice all the maps are panning together. And here are the New York State wineries that have been visited. There's 8 of them. It looks like you can only see like maybe 4 here. But if you would zoom in on some of these are really close together, and you would see all the wineries. Notice over in the table, those 8 wineries statistics, and this scrolls down, we can see what they charge to taste a glass of wine. If we want to know only those wineries that charge $6, we could click just on the $6 one. Notice they are in Pennsylvania, the 2 that charge that, and if we scroll around, they're here, and actually they're in Gettysburg. So you can see what's going on with the different things. So these charts are interdependent of each other. If I scroll down a little bit to the battlefield area, this is Gettysburg and Antietam, the 2 battlefields we're seeing here. Make this the active map. Zoom in a little bit. There we go. There's 201 monuments here, most of them to the Union Army, most of them at Gettysburg. This was a workshop we did on collecting monuments. And you can see the Confederates and those that are not commemorating any single army. Again, we can click on any monument and then use the pull out here, and it'll tell us about this monument. This is to the 10th New York Infantry. So that's what that particular monument was. Notice this has changed to show that we're on a single monument selected, and this single monument is in Gettysburg. If I scroll on down here, we can see the monuments that were collected only in 2018. If we click on that, you can see what was collected in 2018. And we can see those that were only collected in 2019, which are all, I believe, on the Gettysburg battlefield. And you can see they were composed of statues and stone markers. And again, they are on the Gettysburg battlefield. So you can see how these items all relate together. So when one map is zoomed or panned, we can see the charts are changing. We can see the graphs are changing. So we can understand better what's going on in a location. So this interdependency of these items and this analysis of what these items show. Because when I look at this dot of these wineries right here, all I'm seeing right now is a dot. But I can learn more about it by being able to look at what is in the attribute table. And so we're seeing basically parts of the attribute table displayed on the screen. So what you're going to do in this workshop is learn how to build an Insights workbook, or an Insights page that shows these type of items. Then this whole page can be embedded into a website and be interactive. So there's a lot of power in this tool, and that's what we're going to be doing in this workshop. Okay, I've launched the Insights page by just going to insights.arcgis.com, and you can see that I've already signed in because you can see my name here on the upper left hand side. So once you sign in, you should see your name also appearing here, but you're going to have a little bit different looking screen because I've had Insight workbooks that I've worked on in the past. And for example, here's the demonstration one that I showed you in the earlier video. So to get started, we're going to click on Workbooks. Again, your screen may be pretty much blank. I've got lots of things I've been working on. I'm going to go over on the right hand side of the screen and click on New Workbooks. And you can see that it's working. And here you can now see on the left hand side some different choices where you can get information from. You can get information from the Living Atlas. You can upload a file from your desktop, or you can use your connections, and my connection here is already showing up what it is because I signed into my organizational account. We can search for specific things over here in the search window. So we're going to add a couple items to our workbook. So the first one I'm going to look for is one called wineries, or winery. There it is. By looking at the symbol, I can see that this is a Survey 123 page, and that's what I want. So I'm going to click over here to select that one. I'm going to come back up here to my search window, and I'm going to search for monuments, which is Civil War battlefield monuments. It is also a Survey 123 page. Both of these were created in the Excel workbook part of Survey 123. I'm going to select that one. You can see both of these are now showing up, and I'm going to click Add. So you can see the two maps have been added to our desktop, and we can just select one of them, and we can zoom in to see the data a little bit better. This is the winery map. So one of the things we want to do is we do want to change the names of these. So you can see this one's called Card 1, and I'm going to change the name to Monument. I'll select that one. I'm going to come over here and change the name of this one to Winery. And I'm going to stack these vertically, so I'm just going to move this one, and there are snapping there that I can get them nice and lined up together. So that is how we add data. It's very simple. If you want to add more data, you can do so by clicking on the Add button. Now that we've added a couple maps, a bunch of data basically, if you look here, there's these little arrows. If I push on that or click on that, you'll see different attributes. These are the attributes from my collection routine, and I get the same type of situation on the other one, and we'll use that in just a moment. This is the selected map at this moment. This one is not selected because you don't see the handles around it, and you also don't see this action icon. So if I want to make this a selected map, all I have to do is click on it. And the first thing I want to do is synchronize these two maps together, so when I zoom in on one, the other one zooms in appropriately, and when I pan one, the other one pans appropriately. So up here, there's a sync extents. I'm just going to click on that. Notice the lower map has now have the same zoom level as the upper one, and we're going to just zoom in to the eastern United States by using my scroll wheel on my mouse, and you can see that both maps are zooming together. So this is how we do a zooming or panning together. So if I pan one map, the other map pans together. What we want to do next is we want to add a chart. It doesn't matter which map we use. I'm going to use this lower map, which is the wineries. So I'm going to open up what's called Form 2, which is my wineries. I could change that name and call it winery. So I will do that. And let's look at what states these wineries are located in. So I'm going to click on state. I'm going to come up here and click on the graph. Use the pull down actually. I want to make a bar chart. So I'm going to click on bar chart. And we can see the different wineries by state. Since wineries is the lower window, I'm going to bring this down and let it snap into the same area. If we want to change the symbology, we have a legend here. We're using a single symbol right now. Let's use unique symbols, and it automatically changes it to unique symbols. And I can also modify any symbol I want to. So we can click on it and we can modify that signal if we would like. But we won't worry about that right now. Also, as we did before, when I select a state, we can see just the wineries that are in that state. If I want to add a chart, we'll stay with the wineries. I'm going to come down here and click on tasting fee amount. I'm going to come up here to chart and click on chart. It's going to build me that chart we saw before. And we have some no data, which means there was no tasting fee. We should have probably made that better. We also have some problems with how things are recorded in here. And again, I can just pull this over and let it snap into place. And now we have a chart about tasting fees. And if I click on any certain one, like $1 per glass, we can see in Ohio, that's where these two $1 per glass are. We know it's in Ohio because only the Ohio bar is now highlighted. So as we continue, let me show you another way of adding data. So I'm going to close the winery attribute table. I'm going to open the attribute table on monuments. And we have this one called Union or Confederate. I'm going to click and hold it. I'm just going to drag it into a blank spot on the map, and it's going to then populate that map. Now it's not, the synchronization here was automatically done, and so this is its zoom level and it automatically synchronized it. And we're going to zoom back in and we can see different color dots, and those were by if the monument was a Union monument or if it was a Confederate monument. So we can see that as we zoom in. We can then use the legend button here and the pull out over here on the side. Select the legend, select Confederate. We normally make those bright red. We'll do that. We'll select Union and make it a bright blue color. And other, we will make it sort of a yellow buff color. And we'll zoom on into the Gettysburg, select the card first and then zoom on into the Gettysburg battlefield. And you can see the maps are zooming together, and now we can see where the Union monuments are and where the Confederate monuments are off the battlefield. So an alternate way of adding data, you saw I drug it from the attribute table onto the blank spot. I had a choice of chart, graph, or map. The default was map, and I just accepted the default, and you can see how that's done. As we discussed before, we probably should change the name of things like card 1 to be wineries by state, and card 2 maybe to be tasting fees at different wineries. So you can see some of the items that we can do. We've got this as our active window. I'm going to click on the action icon, and I'm going to click on create buffer drive times. choose which layer we're going to buffer. We're going to buffer off the monuments. We will do a fixed distance, and right now the default is 1, and we have different units of measurement. I'm going to do it in feet, so I'm going to buffer within 100 feet of each monument and see what we get by doing that. That's very different than what we did before. I'm going to dissolve the buffer so they're not overlapping, and we will do a preview buffer. Well, you can see some of what's going on there with the preview. I'm just going to unclick the preview. I'm going to zoom back out on the window so we can see more of the monuments, and I'm going to say run. So it has done it. It zoomed me out fairly far, but there was monuments all the way down here in northern Georgia at Chickamauga Battlefield. I'm going to zoom back in towards the Gettysburg Battlefield. And there you can see the buffers. We said 100 feet, and so we can see which monuments are within the buffer. So these two monuments are a little bit farther apart than 100 feet, and you can see how the buffering action works. So this is some of the items that you can do with Insights. We want you to spend some time researching other items that you can do in Insights, but this should be enough to get you started. Now that you've experienced a little bit about Insights and hopefully been able to add some maps and charts and tables to yours and maybe even do the buffer like what we just showed, I'd like to talk about a few other things. We can have multiple pages, and to have multiple pages, down here near the bottom of the screen, there's a plus button to add new pages, and it goes back just like what we did when we first started. What kind of page do you want to add? It can be of the same theme. It can be of a different theme. Obviously, the two maps I brought in before were not necessarily single themed because one was wineries and one was Civil War monuments. But you can see how you can add additional items. I'm just going to close that and not add another page. Well, it did add another page for me. So you can see what goes on there. I can also select which page I'm looking at, and I can change the name of the page. So let's say this is test page 1. So down here on the bottom of the screen, I've changed the name of that page. It did add a page just by clicking on the plus button. Even though I gave it no content, it went on and added the page. You'll want to make sure you save this. So the save button is up here, and you want to give it a reasonable name. Notice it automatically accepts untitled workbook unless I come up here and manually change it. And so I can change this to something like Insights Demo, and if I save it again, it will change the name, as you can see here. So one of the other things I want to show you here is that there is this interdependence that you can edit. And so I'm going to go over here to analysis view. So I went over to the right hand side of my screen. You can see analysis view. I'm going to click on that, and you can see some of the things that we've done. So we have two data sets, the monuments and the winery data sets. Things that we have done on the monument is make a map. Same thing on the winery one, we made a map. We created a buffer on the monument one, and we stylized that buffer with the colors that we wanted and things like that. And so you can see what we have done. If I scroll down on the winery one, we added the map. We aggregated the data into what states things were from, and we also aggregated the tasting fee amount. So you can see some of the work we've done. If we want to get back into the view that we were working in before, so this is the logic view, and if we want to go back to the presentation view, we can see that there also.